Christian buildings are the only religious buildings on the continent of Antarctica. Although they are used mostly for Christian worship, the Chapel of the Snows has also been used for Buddhist and Bahai ceremonies. Some of the early religious buildings are now protected as important historical monuments. The first clergyman of any denomination to set foot on Antarctica was the Reverend Arnold Spencer Smith, 1883 to 1916, an Anglican priest who was chaplain and photographer for the Ross Sea Party of Shackleton's Imperial Trans-Antarctic Expedition. Spencer Smith set up a chapel in Paulding's darkroom in Scott's Hut at Cape Evans. He arranged an altar with cross and candlesticks and an awbry where he reserved the Blessed Sacrament. He made a lamp to hang by the awbry to indicate the real presence. In his diary, Spencer Smith records when he celebrated Eucharist and how many were present. He also records when he heard confession on the continent. Spencer Smith was the first clergyman to land in Antarctica, the first to celebrate the Eucharist and the first to die and be buried there. A cross on Wind Vane Hill, Cape Evans, was erected by the Ross Sea Party, led by Captain Aeneas Mackintosh, of Sir Ernest Shackleton's Imperial Trans-Antarctic Expedition of 1914 to 1917, in memory of 3 members of the party who died in the vicinity in 1916. The cross has been designated a Historic Site or Monument, HSM 17, following a proposal by New Zealand and the United Kingdom to the Antarctic Treaty Consultative Meeting. The first Roman Catholic service in Antarctica was performed in 1947 by William Menster, 1913 to 2007, Lieutenant Commander of the United States Navy during Operation High Jump. During a Catholic service held in a tent set up on land, he consecrated Antarctica. Ministering to approximately 2,000 men from a variety of Christian denominations gave him experience in leading ecumenical services. Although they are used mostly for Christian worship, the Chapel of the Snows has also been used for Buddhist and Bahai ceremonies. Some of the buildings are among historically important sites and under protection, such as the Chilean Captain Arturo Prat Base's wooden cross and a statue of Our Lady of the Carmel. Around 1900, whaling stations and expedition camps were erected in the larger area. After World War II, some military expeditions explored the region. The International Geophysical Year, 1957 to 1958, marked the end of a long period during the Cold War when scientific interchange between East and West had been seriously interrupted and has since contributed to simple scientific exploration. Since the 1950s, most stations in Antarctica have been constructed exclusively for scientific research. Extended stays in the region can be an extremely stressful experience for the researchers who often have been separated from their families for months at a time. Jesuits, which have had a long tradition of geophysical research in Antarctica, contributed as well to the early Antarctic missions. Notable Jesuit seismicity scholars like Edward A. Bradley, compare Bradley Nunatak, Henry F. Birkenhauer, compare Birkenhauer Island, and J. Joseph Lynch and Daniel J. Linehan have been among those. The first churches south of the Antarctic convergence and north of 60 degrees south latitude, and thus not part of the Antarctic Treaty System, are Notre Dame de Vence at Port Auxiliary Francais on the main island of Kerguelen and the Norwegian Lutheran Church, Grytviken, South Georgia, a Lutheran chapel in Grytviken, South Georgia, since 1913. After years of abandonment and weathering the harsh elements of the region, roof damaged in 1994, the Grytviken Church was renovated by the keepers of South Georgia Museum and volunteers in 1996 to 1998 and now serves for occasional church services and marriage ceremonies. Some churches north of the Antarctic convergence serve Antarctic territories, such as the Christ Church Cathedral in Stanley, which is the southernmost Anglican cathedral in the world. It serves as the parish church not only for the Falkland Islands, but also South Georgia and the British Antarctic Territory. Punta Arenas in the southern tip of the South American mainland, just north of Tierra del Fuego, also has a Roman Catholic cathedral, which serves the Chilean Antarctic Territory. Christians have increasingly turned toward internet communications for fellowship in the 21st century. Out of nearly 90 stations in Antarctica, half are only used in summer months. Most research stations have a small meeting room dual-purposed for religious assemblies. Larger stations and communities use a separate room, often a makeshift steel container for religious purposes. The Chapel of the Snows was erected in 1956 as a Christian chapel used by several denominations, at McMurdo Station, Ross Island. The chapel offers various Protestant and Catholic services, but also allows for meetings of other religions, such as Latter-day Saints, Bahai, and Buddhists, and is used as well for secular groups, e.g. Alcoholics Anonymous. The chapel had been rebuilt after a fire in 1978 and was reconsecrated in 1989. The majority of Catholic Antarctic sites exist due to the Argentine and Chilean presence on the continent. The worldwide Antarctic program proposes building a Catholic chapel at Barrio Zucchelli Station, Terra Nova Bay, Antarctica, while the first Catholic chapel, named after St. Francis of Assisi, was built in 1976 at the Argentine Esperanza base. The southernmost Christian chapel, in fact, the southernmost place of worship of any religion, lies at the Argentine Belgrano II base at Coatesland. It is a permanent Catholic chapel made entirely of ice. Further dedicated religious buildings are the Chapel of Santissima Virgin de Luján, Antarctica, a Catholic chapel at Marambio Base, Seymour Island, San Francisco de Asis Chapel, the Catholic chapel at Esperanza Base, Antarctic Peninsula, and Santa Maria Reina de la Paz Church, a Catholic church at the Villa Las Estrellas, South Shetland Islands. Santa Maria Reina de la Paz is a repurposed container allowing for 36 persons to convene. There is a small Catholic shrine near McMurdo Station called Our Lady of the Snows. Popularly known as Roll Cage Mary, the shrine was dedicated to a United States Navy Seabee who was killed during the construction of the station. It has been maintained by Carmelite nuns in New Zealand. Religious activities were halted during the Soviet Antarctic expedition. However, this changed with the fall of the Soviet Union and the communism within Central and Eastern Europe. The St. Ivan Rilski Chapel, a Bulgarian Orthodox chapel at St. Clement Oretsky Base, South Shetland Islands, was built in 2003 and is the first Eastern Orthodox edifice in Antarctica, and was the southernmost Eastern Orthodox building of worship in the world till 2011, when Street Vladimir the Great Chapel at Ukrainian Bernatsky Research Base was erected. The Buryatsky Island Cemetery belongs among the most important monuments in the region. A Russian Orthodox cross has been erected in the meanwhile to mark the site. The island holds a cemetery for about 60 citizens of the Soviet Union, Czechoslovakia, the German Democratic Republic, and Switzerland who died in the performance of their duties while serving as members of Soviet and Russian Antarctic expeditions. It has been designated a historic site or monument, HSM 9, following a proposal by Russia to the Antarctic Treaty Consultative Meeting. In 2002, Patriarch Alexei II of Moscow asked for a temple for Antarctica and initiated the Trinity Church, Antarctica, a Russian Orthodox church at Bellingshausen Station, South Shetland Islands. The church is being positioned as a widely visible landmark and is maintained by the Moscow Patriarch. It was first maintained by a single priest. In the meanwhile, 2 priests maintain the services, which are being exchanged annually. They both contribute to the maintenance of the overall station. January 29, 2007, saw the first church wedding on Antarctica, between a Chilean and Russian. The first baptism, for adults, also took place there. While the Pakistan program at Jinnah Antarctic Station brought Muslims to Antarctica in 1991, there are currently no mosques on the continent or on any of the outlying islands, as the most optimal ways of observing Islamic religious customs there are still being determined.